All right. In the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful, I bear witness there is no God but Allah, who we believe came in the person of Master Father Muhammad. And we thank him for raising up for us the living and exalted Christ, the honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we thank those two for leaving in our midst, the divine warner and guide, and the honorable minister Louis Farrakhan. It's in their three names. I would like to greet you all with the greeting words of peace. We said in the Arabic language of Assalamu alaikum. For those who don't know, that simply means peace be unto you. It is Wednesday, so y'all know we are doing Wealth Wednesday. So we got Sister Alexis Holified back again. And the topic today is how to be economically empowered during an economy emergency. How to be economically empowered during an economy emergency. So some of y'all are well, most of y'all are probably already familiar with her. I met her at an event a couple months ago in Atlanta. She was teaching on life insurance. Some of the stuff or the concept I had already heard of because I was a part of a company that did life insurance, but the way that she was teaching it was a little different. So I asked her to come and, on some Wednesdays and kind of give us some information about what we can be doing wealth-wise, what we can be doing economically to prepare ourselves or better our condition. And so far, it seems like she's been getting great feedback. Y'all have been liking these. So if you're new, that's why you see her today. So on Wednesdays, we're going to talk about wealth. Wednesdays, we're going to talk about economics, things we can do to improve our financial condition, because we know the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, do for self or suffer the consequences. And some of us see the consequences today, especially saw them during the pandemic when we have been 100% dependent on others to do for us what we have the power to do for ourselves. So we want to at least, not saying quit your job, this not saying leave anything, that's not what this saying. But what we are saying is you should have some type of ownership of your own, whether if you invest in, whether if you're starting your own business, something so that your family's life and your life is not 100 dependent on if somebody's going to keep you on as a employee or not. All right, so we got the new Telegram that's posted in there as well. So I'm not going to waste no more time. Sister Alexis, I see you. Well, I see you unmuted, but I don't see you. The floor is yours to go ahead and give us some news we can use.
I love that. Can you see me? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Amazing. Happy Wednesday. I want to ask you how you're doing, Brother Ben, but I feel like you're going to say blacktastic.
I am doing blacktastic.
I love that. I love that. Well, it's always a privilege and pleasure to be here and serve per usual. So I'm going to jump right into it so that way I can be mindful of everyone's time.
Okay, wait. I'm sorry. Before she gets started, I know there are some people in the community that has already had one-on-ones with her. Y'all, while she's doing her intro and getting into it, why don't y'all bear witness to what y'all think about the calls that y'all have? They've been free. So if y'all have, just share your feedback. Have they been good? Do y'all like them? Are they educational? Are y'all learning? Are y'all growing? I know she's met with some of y'all and be meeting with y'all again. So if y'all have, maybe none of y'all in here have, but quite a few of y'all have. Okay, they've been great. So yeah, y'all go ahead and let the new people know how the meeting's been going. So my bad. Okay, back to you.
Good. You're good. So yes, like I said, I want to jump right into it to be mindful of everyone's time, but I love that Brother Ben asked that because feedback is important as I'm doing this for myself, of course, and my family, but obviously I want to make sure that it's most impactful and receptive for you all. So today's topic for Wealth Wednesday on the Power Call, if there was a title for our notes, it's going to be titled How to Be Economically Empowered During an Economic Emergency. How to be economically empowered during an economic emergency. Now, I'm a huge believer in understanding what words mean and actually going over the definition of them, because concepts and subject matters are built on language, as we know. So what does it even mean to be economically empowered? Economically empowered literally means that you have the ability to empower yourself economically. Brother Ben said something extremely important at the beginning of the call. There was a time in life that we experienced that I don't think, I don't think any of our ancestors or our grandparents have really experienced to the level of what we've been experiencing economically and what we're looking forward to, they're saying. So to be economically empowered literally means to have the ability to provide for oneself with the passive income that they're creating on their own without the assistance of the government or without the assistance of the state, etc. Right? During an economic emergency. So it's about having the power. We went over the power, right? Having the power to empower oneself economically during an economic emergency. So how do we set ourselves up? First mentally, then spiritually, and then financially to ensure that we can be economically empowered during an economic emergency. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if you guys are tracking. So I want to make sure we're getting this. So how to be economically empowered during an economic emergency. Last week when we went over, I'm going to share my screen so that way we can recap. So last week, not last week, but the last time that we connected, of course I wasn't last week, I think that was about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. When we connected last, we went over the game of wealth and how it's played. We learned that there is a game that's being played when it comes to building wealth. And that's extremely important for us to know because, as I asked Brother Ben, if we are playing a game and we don't know that it's being played, what is the likelihood that we can win the game? Brother Ben said there was a likelihood of a 10% chance, right? 10% chance that we can actually win at the game. The truth is, there's really like a 1% chance if we win by luck. So we went over the game of wealth and really who plays the game. So we went over the fact that there were 3 players in the game of wealth. There was a consumer or spender, a saver, and a wealth creator. And basically, to sum up the seminar in a sentence, we just went over the fact that each of the players in the game of wealth, economics, finance, it's all the same game that's being played, right? They have different rules that they're playing by. So in short, the spender is playing the rules of the game in a sense where they're just earning to spend. So as soon as they earn their check or they earn their commission or they earn their profits, immediately they're spending on liabilities, whether that's things that they owed before or new expenses that they're accruing now, right? The saver's rules of the game is they normally just work to save. So savers essentially are saving in an account. You know, they like to spend cash for certain things. They like to use their own capital. They don't want to incur any interest or borrow money from anyone, which is fine. But if they're not saving their money in the right place, they're always ending up back at the bottom line. And we went through this presentation live the last time we were on the call for those who are new. So we basically were demonstrating if a person saves money in a bank account or in a regular financial vehicle, and their need for that saving comes up, when they actually use the money that they've been saving, they're going to go back down to the bottom line, right? And then lastly, the wealth creator. The wealth creator essentially is also playing the game as well, but their rules of the game look like they also save as well, because saving is obviously a key part in becoming financially independent or becoming wealthy. They also save, but they save in a vehicle where they can borrow from themselves, right? So the money that they're saving, they can use it as collateral. They can use it for what is called leverage or arbitrage, meaning they can leave the money that they saved uninterrupted from compounding interest. They can leave it uninterrupted from growth. They can leave it protected from the market while they're using other people's money to grow their own money, right? So that's essentially what we covered. So we really got into the fact that our goal is to become a wealth creator. We also asked the question, where do you identify yourself? And I've had an amazing time having calls with the members of this community because you all are so wise and you all are waking up to new information and new concepts that, again, our parents and grandparents just did not have access to. So the question becomes, now that we know this, now that we know that there are spenders, savers, and wealth creators, we understand the key concept of wealth creators is that they understand that they want their money to continue obtaining forward momentum, right? That means when their money is parked and growing, they still want access to money that they can go out and invest into Brother Ben's program. They want to invest in themselves. They want to invest in more digital real estate or physical real estate. They are concerned with making sure that their money can make more money. And lastly, on this slide, our end goal, and this was the key thing that we went over as well the last time, was that we want to ensure as wealth creators, as we've identified if we're a spender or a saver, and we're now declaring, I am a wealth creator. What are the characteristics of a wealth creator? One of the main ones is that every dollar they're using it 3 to 4 times. Now, how this all ties back into the title for today, which is how to be economically empowered during an economic emergency, is during this time where things are not certain, it's extremely important that we're getting and obtaining the maximized use of our dollar, because the dollar is actually losing its value, right? And I actually didn't intend on sharing this, but I actually am going to share it with you. Let me pull it up. I'm going to share with you all a chart that you may or may not have seen before. And this is essentially the chart that, just to give you all a preface, the chart that I'm going to share with you is what's called the M1 money stock. So the website that I'm using is called TradingView. TradingView is a completely free platform. You don't have to be a trader. You don't have to be extremely intelligent in finance or anything like that. It's very simple, just, very simple translation here. The M1 money stock, this is basically a chart of all the money that has ever been printed within the Federal Reserve, right? And again, this is not a huge lesson to make this more complicated, but I just want to give you all an actual visual. I know that I have a lot of visual learners from the questions that I've asked a lot of the members. Are you visual or audible? And most individuals are visual, right? So as you can see, this chart here is basically just demonstrating all of the money that has ever been printed. There's a little dinosaur here, cute little dinosaur. And this little dinosaur, it usually, let's see if it's going to show me. See, it's not actually showing me the bottom portion that I'm looking for. So this here is like around 1970-ish where it first begins, where they first start tracking it. So again, this is just basically showing the money that they printed during the time of US history, right? So it's just a continual, just straight line, as you can see, right? I really actually want this time chart. Hold on one second, you guys. We're gonna get this together. I really want you guys to see this. Why this is important is because when we're talking about economic emergency, right, it's about the fact that the country is de-dollarizing, right? The country is finding new ways to build wealth. And the way that we've been exposed to is no longer as accurate as it was before. So the M1 money stock, like I'm saying, is demonstrating all of the money that's ever been printed. And there has been a consistent increase in the amount of money that has been printed in the United States. Okay, this is exactly what I'm looking for. This chart at the time frame at the bottom. Brother Ben, are you there? Can you guys see the time frame at the bottom? You guys see?
Where it says 2015 May and all that.
Yeah, it looks like whenever I go down on the time frame, it's not going to let me. So we may have to stick. There we go. Okay. Yes. Do you see the time frame at the bottom?
Yeah, it says 1986, 1988, 1990.
Perfect. Yes, exactly. That's what I wanted you guys to see. So basically, this is just demonstrating, again, all the money that's being printed, et cetera. In 1971, I don't know if you all know about the gold standard, but they actually detached the gold standard from the US dollar. So they basically said, hey, the US dollar is one of the strongest currencies because it's backed by gold, but we don't want to back it by gold anymore with the Nixon Act. So they said, we're going to detach that. So the question is, if the currency is not backed by anything, then what is it backed by? Debt. So that is when we initially became backed by debt. And this is why this is an economic emergency. For those of us who may not understand, we've probably heard of crisis economically before, and this is not fear mongering because we do have a solution. But essentially, this is why there's so many bells sounding if you're checking in, like Robert Kiyosaki, Ray Dalio, why they are so anxious about what's happening is because when they depeg the dollar from gold, they continuously increase the amount of money that they printed. The average person may say, well, what does the amount of money they printed have to do with me? It has everything to do with us, because every time they print a dollar, the dollar in your pocket loses value. Right? So that's important for us to know, that every time they printed money, our money lost value. So they were just continuously printing money. Key point here, in 1984, 1984 is when they pegged the US dollar to what's called a petrodollar, right? And that's spelled Petro. Petro. And so a petrodollar is literally when they attach oil to our money. So now we have a contract in place that says the US dollar will now be backed by oil. So America essentially started printing more money. Again, the more money that they print, the less the value of our dollar that we currently have in our bank accounts hold. So they continue to print money, and that's just a normal part of the economy. Trying to get it to slide over and it doesn't want to. There we go. So they're just printing. It's going slow. Okay, we have 2012. So can you guys see the pattern that it's pretty much consistent? Right? It's just pretty much money being printed. Not that big of a deal. But where it becomes a big of a deal is that in 2020 during COVID, when they explained that our economy was shutting down and that we were supposed to be, things were shut down, nothing was really moving, they printed more money than they've ever printed in United States history in 1 year. So all the money that we just seen, the long line we just seen, all of that money was printed over, as it was tracked since 1975. But in 2020, they printed more money than they've ever printed in US history. So what does that mean for our dollar? That means that the dollars in our account just lost more value than any other time in history. The money that we're earning, the money that we have currently. So that is why this is called How to Be Economically Empowered During an Economic Emergency, because we have to ledge or hedge against, right? We have to create a hedge against this drop, because what goes up must do what? It must come down. And we know that, right? That's just the laws of the universe. So this is the economic emergency that individuals are talking about. And the reason why I wanted to show you all this is because oftentimes it's hard to conceptualize visually what an economic recession even means if we've never seen it before. So just a backstory before we move on to how we're actually going to prepare ourselves for this is back in 2020, when they printed more money than they've ever printed in US history, they actually said, hey, we unintentionally printed more money than we've ever printed because we thought that we would need it, but we don't. So we're going to go ahead and do what's called quantitative tightening. And they are going to be pulling money out of the market. So if we're writing down these terms, the first term I really want us to understand, and again, this is not like a super high level concept, but one that we should all understand at this time. So quantitative easing is where they're printing money, right? And then the opposite of quantitative easing is the tightening of it. And the tightening of it is when they're pulling money out of the market. So quantitative easing is when they printed all of this money because they're easing up the economy. So they're quantitatively easing it. They're printing. And then they say, whoa. Okay, now there's too much money in the economy, right? The economy was supposed to be shut down, but stocks were booming. Crypto was booming. A lot of people were unemployed, but a lot of money was being spent. So they said, we've printed too much money. Now we need to do quantitative tightening. So now we need to pull some of the money out of the market, right? Does that make sense? The market that they're pulling the money from is just a regular market, like, the ones that the S&P 500, it's just the regular markets that most people's investments are tied to, the real estate market, job markets, that's where they're pulling the money from. So basically, to sum up the seminar in a sentence, they had a number in which they said that they were going to pull the money out. They said, we're going to pull $20 billion out, or $20 trillion out of the market. And they never did it. They never did that. So not only has our dollar has lost an extreme amount of value, but now we're going to be battling the devaluing of the dollar, the decreasing of the value of the dollar. Does that make sense? So how do we hedge this? How do we hedge this coming down, right? The truth is, it really starts with mindset, right? And that's really the first portion of what we're going to cover is how do we become economically empowered now? So now we understand that this is a game that's being played. We got that. We also understand that we're moving from being just a spender and a saver to being a wealth creator. But now we find out that there's an economic emergency going on because the dollars we just are learning how to create in quantities are now losing value in quantities, right? And so the first thing that we want to focus on when we're creating economic empowerment is mastering the basics of increasing and preserving our purchasing power, right? That's like one of the key components, right? And even before we're talking about purchasing power, we can get into mindset because this is a very, I don't want to say scary time, but this is a very uncertain time for a lot of individuals, right? A lot of individuals, 90% of individuals do not have a clue on what exactly is happening. And 98% of individuals have never seen a chart that you just seen to mentally conceptualize how we need to now get our houses in order, right? Because the sound has been alarmed and we want to be prepared. So the first thing in getting prepared during an economic emergency is to empower ourselves mentally, right? We have to empower ourselves mentally. That means that we're not fearful. We're not, hoarding and scared because something is going to happen. But instead, we're tapping in, tuning in, and turning onto Allah and asking for assistance in shifting our paradigm. Because now is the time where we have to understand that a wealthy mind is a shifted paradigm. For those of us who have never heard of what the word paradigm means, the paradigm is found in the subconscious mind. So we know there's 3 levels of the mind. There's the conscious, right? Conscious mind, which is how you all are paying attention right now. And then there's the subconscious mind, which is the mind that's controlling how you're able to pay attention, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions. And then there's a superconscious mind, the mind that's tapped into all that is. So the paradigm is found in the subconscious mind, and it rules 90% of our thoughts. It rules 90% of our feelings, and it rules 100% of our actions. What does that have to do with being wealthy? It has everything to do. And let me be clear when I'm saying wealth as well. Just really quickly, this preface. Everyone's goal is not to be wealthy. And we said this on the last Wealth Wednesday. Some individuals' goals are truly to obtain what is called financial independence. So when we hear the word wealthy, we can also counteract that with financially independent. The first preface to becoming financially independent or wealthy is to shift our mind, is to change the way that we're looking at a thing, right? It's to unlearn and relearn, to unlearn and relearn. That's worth repeating one more time. To unlearn and relearn. Even everything that we're learning with Brother Ben when it comes to digital real estate. We've all been programmed that 90% of millionaires in America are built on tangible real estate. But now we're learning that 100% of multimillionaires are built on digital real estate. So we have to unlearn and relearn the generally accepted perspective of a thing. Okay. So, for example, when we're looking at an economic emergency, we can have fear or we can have faith. Most individuals are looking at the economic emergency. They're seeing that drop. They're understanding what's going to be happening with fear and not faith. So even prior to talking about how can I make more money and how can I do more with my money and how can I make sure I'm economically empowered during an economic emergency, we first want to shift our mind from that of fear to faith, to unlearn and relearn what we've been programmed about money, what we've been programmed to think about money, and what we've been programmed to believe about how money works. We want to unlearn and relearn that perspective. So that way we can ensure that our wealthy mind truly stems from us having a shifted paradigm, right? I want to stop right here, Brother Ben, to make sure no one has questions or that we're tracking, like just making sure we're all clear.
If anybody have a question, go ahead and press the number 1. If anybody have a question about anything she says so far, go ahead and press the number 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, you can go ahead.
So now that we've established that, right? We pretty much recapped last week.
Well, we do got one person that came in late. Fort Chester. iPhone Fort Chester. Go ahead with your question. You can come off mute.
I'm sorry. Appreciate it, Brother Ben. Sorry for the late response. But in the shift of paradigm, like changing our mindset, how we perceive things, the perception of things, where does one begin?
That's a great question. So the question is, where does one begin in the shifting of the paradigm? Honestly, it really comes with education, right? Really understanding from a faithful perspective what's happening. And when I say faithful, I just mean optimistic, right? Beginning to understand what's truly happening and what the end goal is that we're trying to obtain with what's happening, if that makes sense. Like, to understand what's happening, we would have to unlearn because we've been taught a certain way about how money works and how this economy works. So I would say begin with educating, being where you are right now, listening to this information and identifying where we can unlearn what we've already known and challenging those beliefs, challenging the things that you're telling yourself about the economy and what's happening right now, just in general about money. A great thing to do as well that I learned from one of my coaches is ask yourself questions out loud and see how your body responds. What is your identity around money? Like asking yourself that, hey, what is my identity about money? What do I think about what's happening in the economy right now? Do I know what's going on in the economy right now? And identifying what it is that you've been taught about how you believe what's happening, because we've all been programmed about how we believe. And it's not a negative thing, it's just how the human mind works. And challenging those beliefs with beliefs that will propel you towards and forwards, shifting your mindset, if that makes sense. I hope that answers your question.
If I could share something as well, I recommend you get a book. I don't know if I have it. Yeah, I do have it. I recommend you getting this book right here called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And what I might do, I might actually put the link, the PDF to it inside of our Telegram. So make sure y'all join our Telegram that Sister Randisha dropped. Sister Randisha, if you can drop that link again. But this book right here is really good for mindset. Inside of this book, it talks about your money blueprint. And so along with where what she said, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, knowledge of self is the prerequisite to all other knowledge. So I would start there with yourself. What is your money blueprint? What do you believe about money? Because those beliefs, that subconscious thinking is what leads to your actual results. Inside the book, it says in order to change the fruit, you have to change the root. Scripture says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. So we can get up here and we can talk about wealth every Wednesday. We could talk about economics. But if you have a negative thought process when it comes to money internally, we all know consciously we really need it. However, subconsciously, if you have a negative thought process, for example, the misquote of the Bible that says money is the root of all evil, when it never said that, then whenever it comes to somebody teaching you about how to get more of it, subconsciously, you're kind of drawing back from it and it will limit your actions. So I would start with this book right here because it really goes into the mindset of how you think about money and the right way to think about it to attract better things into your life. I don't spark Brother Daniel. Brother Daniel, go ahead.
I want to add real quick, Brother Ben, real quick.
Go ahead.
That book is one of the first books that I ever read on how money works. Ever. And it taught about the subconscious mind and leading from the thoughts, feelings, actions to results. So I concur 1,000% that that's a great place to start. And I think you said someone has a question.
Yeah, Brother Daniel.
Yes, sir. I have that book. I read it. It's a very powerful book. I also would recommend because when the sister was speaking, she mentioned the paradigm shift, um, and she mentioned faith and spirituality. Study Guide 21 from the Honorable Minister of Farrakhan is specifically dealing with the paradigm shift. It deals with faith. It deals with the Christ. It deals with how to come out of the mind of the old dying world of money and get into the new mind. So I would definitely recommend Study Guide 21. And of course, you can get that information through the Power Call because Brother Ben is always pushing the Friday nights. Thank you.
Yes, yes. That is divine alignment. I love that. Are we good, Brother Ben? Did
Yes, man, you
anything
good to go.
Okay, that was a good confirmation. Thank you. So to add on what Brother Ben just explained, and Brother Daniel as well, right, is that there has to be a shift in the mindset first before we can even focus on creating wealth. Because our attention and our mind is what's being fought for, right? There have been nuclear wars, there have been biological wars, but this is a war of attention because the less you know, the less you can do, right? So we want to make sure that we are, again, starting at the subconscious level and challenging our beliefs. So that way we can start focusing on actually applying the things that we now know. We can plant the garden, we can sow the seed, but the seed has to be germinated, cared for, watered, nurtured before it grows, right? So the question becomes, once we've shifted our mindset, once we have done the work, and this takes time. This is not something like have grace with self because it takes time to really learn how the brain works. It's a supercomputer and you're shifting its hard drive, right? So once we've done that, the next thing that we have to do, what wealthy families do, what financially independent individuals do, is they solely focus on the increasing and preservation of purchasing power. And anyone who knows me knows this is my favorite thing to talk about because it's the only thing that has to do with wealth truly when it comes to the financial aspect of it. Now, disclaimer, wealth is three-dimensional, right? Wealth is not just about money. Wealth is not just about financial assets. Wealth is about energy. Wealth is about mindset. Wealth is about the development and cultivation of the human, intellectual, and financial assets. I also want to recommend a book as well for those of you who are on this call who are family generational wealth builders. There's a book that's called Family Wealth. Let me actually get the author for you all. There's a book called Family Wealth. And that book is essentially about how the wealthy view building wealth. The author of the book, his name is James E. Hughes. James E. Hughes. Uh-oh. Let's go ahead and get that fixed. There we go. James E. Hughes. And so what that book really focuses on is making sure that we're obtaining generational wealth for at least 3 generations, etc. But what they really focus on is the fact that true wealth is three-dimensional and finances are the last thing to focus on. The first thing to focus on is the human asset, maximizing your mind, maximizing your body, etc. The intellectual assets, right? Making sure that we're capturing all of our systems, all of our strategies and things of that nature, what we have set up for our next generation, and then the financial assets. And so then when we get to the financial assets, that's where these things actually matter the most, right? That's where these things matter the most, increasing and preservation of purchasing power. And we kind of went over that when we were discussing the difference between a spender, a saver, and a wealth creator. What a wealth creator is doing, because to put this in preface as well, these are the characteristics of a wealth creator. So those of us who are on the last training, when we're asking, okay, well, now we know that there's a spender, saver, wealth creator. Well, what is the wealth creator doing that makes them so different than a saver? What is it that they're doing and how are they preparing? They're increasing and preserving their purchasing power, right? And how do we do that? The question is, okay, I have money, I save, but how do I actually increase and preserve our purchasing power? And so that's essentially what is necessary for us to prepare ourselves for an economic emergency. is what do the wealthy do during these times, right? There are certain principles that they're focusing on and that they have implanted to prepare themselves for this time, right? And the first thing after we're shifting our paradigm is knowing to ourselves, affirming to ourselves that it's not about how much money we make at this time. It's really about how much money we keep at this time. In the world we live in, there's a lot of things pulling us in every direction to spend. Outside of investing in yourself and outside of saving for your family, right? This is a time where we want to make sure that we're actually keeping as much money as we can, not in a hoarding or fearful manner, but in a manner in which we're mindful that this is a time for us to begin increasing and preserving our purchasing power, right? And increasing and preserving purchasing power literally means that we're focusing on opportunity cost, right? To make more money is just increasing our cash flow. That's awesome. That's definitely a key. And that's why I'm so grateful for individuals, especially Brother Ben, who's here almost every day pouring into us, making sure that we understand and understand how to increase our cash flow. How do we make more money? But now, how do we make sure that that money has the most amount of value when we need it the most, which is purchasing power? So if you're writing down what the definition of purchasing power is, it's the value that the money has when we need it the most. The value that the money has when we need it the most. How does that correspond? How would the money's value change when we need it if I'm saving it? Well, there's something called inflation and taxation, right? Outside of, they say the de-dollarization, et cetera, inflation is almost similar, because inflation is essentially where the value of our dollar is going down because there's too much money in the market. There's too much money in the economy. So how we went over quantitative tightening and quantitative easing, that's how inflation begins. So let me give you an example. You have $10,000 in money in your bank account, right? That's safe. That's the balance, right? That's how much money you have, right? But the purchasing power is going to be the $10,000 minus, so let's just put balance. It's going to be a little math equation here, but not too complicated. It's going to be the balance minus inflation, minus taxation, right? When we need it the most. Because when we use the money, then we compare it to what other things we can buy. So that's where this chart comes into place, right? We're trying to identify, how do we keep the value of our dollar? What is the best way to do that? And the only way to hedge us losing value of the dollar is to add value to the dollar. Does that make sense? Right? I'll give you an example. The only reason people invest is for capital gains or cash flow. The only reason why we invest or save normally is because we're looking for cash flow or capital gains. So in the case that we're saving our money and we're looking for capital gains, we're normally looking to see how much interest are we earning on our money. So the first step in preparing ourselves for an economic emergency is to do an assessment, right? It's to do an audit. One of the things that we're offering for Brother Ben's community is a full comprehensive financial plan, full comprehensive financial planning session that we're providing for you all complimentary, which means we'll look at all of your assets to make sure that they are being maximized in the 3 areas that I'm about to cover. So that way we can be as best prepared for this economic emergency as possible. So the question becomes, the first question, where are we saving our money? We've established that we're wealth creators. We've established that we're shifting our mind from that of an average mind to that of a wealthy one. So now we're saving our money. But where are we saving our money? And depending on where we're saving our money, we want to ask ourselves, okay, I have this money saved. This is phenomenal. How much interest am I earning on my money? Right? And so this chart essentially breaks down how long it would take. So preface, has anyone ever heard of the statement that compounding interest is the 8th wonder of the world? If you've heard that statement before, it's absolutely true. Compounding interest is the eighth wonder of the world because that's how our money makes money. So the whole goal is to make sure that wherever our money is being saved during these times, that it's making the most amount of money that it can in the safest way possible to outpace inflation. We went over the chart and we just seen how much money has been printed. And we also established that that means for every dollar that was printed, our dollar lost value. So the whole goal is to make sure wherever we're saving our money, we're earning at least enough money on our money. We're earning at least enough percentage on our money that our money can double during these times, right? We want to ensure that. So this chart basically breaks down a math equation that Albert Einstein came up with as well during him saying that compounding interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He then went on to say, if you have any investments, all you have to do is divide the amount of or rate of return that you're earning on that investment. And the number that you get is the amount of years that it's going to take for your money to double one time. So that means that if we're saving our money and we're looking at what's happening and we're saying, okay, it's time for us to get our things in order, let's check all of our accounts and see what we're earning. The average bank account earns about 1 to 2% per year. The average high yield savings account earns about 4 to 6% a year, right? So we have just an average bank account, and let's say we have, I don't know, $2,000 saved. What this is saying is that the $2,000 only earning 2% will double one time in 36 years. So that means it would take 36 years for your money, for your $2,000 to turn into $4,000. It would take 72 years for $4,000 to double twice, right? 108 years for $8,000 to double 3 times, right? This basically means that it would take 108 years for your $2,000 to turn into $8,000. So that's why it's important for us as we're preparing for these situations and cyclical changes in the economy to identify, where is my money being stored, and is my money working for me, or am I working hard? Is my money working hard for it, or am I working hard for it? Right? Is it out making more money for me, or am I the one that's making all of the money? Because essentially the money is an employee. So the money should be out making more money. And that's the whole point of investing, right? That's the whole point of having capital gains. Another example would be 8%. So let's say when we're working on becoming a family bank, or we're leveraging things like cash value life insurance as an asset class, these asset classes on average normally do around 8 to 10% for the past 20 years. So when we're looking at an 8 to 10% rate of return, we're looking at, okay, so the $2,000 that I would have saved essentially now only takes 9 years to double one time. So the question becomes, do I want to wait 36 years for my money to double one time? Or would I prefer to wait 9 years for my money to double one time? And normally it would be the shorter time frame, right? We want to see what is the shortest amount of time that it would take for our purchasing power to double, because the money that we're saving is losing value as we're saving it, because they're printing more money every single day. So the whole point of earning more money is not really just to be greedy and earn more money. The whole point of earning between 6, 8, 10% is because inflation last year was 9%. So if we didn't earn at least 8 to 10% on our money, we actually lost purchasing power. And that is not the best way to prepare during the time when the economy is going the opposite way. We want to be going against the wind, if that makes sense. So that essentially would
Can
be
I
the
share
first.
something real quick to that?
Yes, please.
When you talk about those time frames, I heard someone say, yeah, people speak against get rich quick, right? But he said, who wants to get rich slow?
Right.
And I want to put that in perspective, right? There's a scripture that does talk about getting rich quick, right? It says, wealth from get rich quick schemes quickly disappears. Wealth from hard work. If you're doing hard work, and it says wealth from hard work grows over time. If you're hardworking and if you are doing it in the right manner, there's nothing wrong with it. Just like there's nothing wrong with money if you get $1 billion or $1 trillion if you know you're going to do something good with it. So then we have to really ask ourselves the question: would I like to make $1 million over a period of 30 years where I can say, man, if I add up all the checks I done got, man, I made $1 million? Or would you like to say I made $1 million in 365 days? Obviously, it'd be 365 days. So I just want to give us that perspective, because I know that's a part of the money blueprint a lot of us have when it comes to making money quick or getting rich quick or anything like that. Like, do you just want to make it slow? And if you think about yourself, always go back to self. Well, I know what I would do with it. I know I'm working hard. I know I have integrity. I know I'm not ripping nobody off. So you shouldn't have that guilt feeling in the back of your head, because you're learning, or you're going to eventually learn how to acquire wealth or get rich at a faster pace. Now, if you're scamming somebody, you're doing credit card this, and you're telling somebody, man, I got my cousin who work at the Chase Bank, all I need is your pat. Now, if you're doing all that, of course, that's gonna fail. But if you got principles, man, and you're helping people, and you're literally just using your money correctly, I don't want you guys to think in the back of your head, man, I feel like I'm doing something wrong, because that is a reality. So just want to add that in.
Most definitely. I appreciate you for adding that in. And also, just to add on to that, abundance is our birthright. Like, Allah did not put us here to struggle. We are co-creators. We have dominion. We have authority over alchemizing the things around us, including our skill sets, our talents, our gifts. We don't have them just so that they're tangled up inside of us and we're confused. We have them to create digital real estate that will create intellectual property for generations to come. This is a time, again, that our family, our parents have never seen. This is truly one of the greatest wealth transfers of our time. So while we are saying this is an economic emergency, the economic emergency is that, yes, while there's a recession and they're ringing the bell, we don't have to participate in that. All 72 individuals within the sound of my voice, 71 individuals within the sound of my voice, we can choose. We can flip our paradigm to look at this situation, look at these circumstances outside, and say that does not deter me. Because while I know that there is, a recession outside, this is also the greatest wealth transfer of our history, of our lifetime. And so I want to recommend a book really quickly before we continue, called You Were Born Rich. So the first book is Family Wealth by Jane E. Hughes. Well, really the first book is Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, which is what Brother Ben recommended. The second one is Family Wealth. And the third one is You Were Born Rich by Bob Proctor. Because what Brother Ben said is absolutely correct. If we don't have the proper money blueprint, we will not continuously apply these rules. So that is essentially the first rule of thumb, is to identify how much money is my money making, and am I working harder for my money, or is my money working harder for me? Because we really need it to be working as hard for you as you are working for it, right? The second key principle that we want to consider when it comes to us really preparing for what's to come is identifying what type of investments do we have? Like, what type of accounts are we saving our money in, right? Even if you don't invest yet, that's fine. Where are you saving your money, right? And the quote that's there says, people say money cannot grow on trees, or money does not grow on trees. I personally believe that it does. And I've seen it happen, right? Because money is paper, and paper definitely does grow on trees. No, I'm kidding. But seriously, it really does grow on trees. It just depends on where you plant the money seeds. It just depends on where you decide to plant your seed, where you decide to plant that, right? After we've established what interest we're earning on our money, or how our money is working for us, right? Because side note, if we had employees, we would be clocking them every single day. As a business owner, if you have an assistant, if you have a digital media marketing team, whatever type of team you have, we're always clocking them to make sure, are they performing, and are we getting the maximized use out of our money? So we also want to ask our money the same thing. Is this money being maximized? And is it outdoing the best it can be doing while you're outdoing the best you are doing? right? So after we consider that, the second question is, where are we saving the money? And this is really important. This is important because a lot of us are a little bit confused because there's thousands upon thousands of investments. There's thousands upon thousands of influencers and content creators saying, invest in an IRA, do a savings, savings employment plan, or self-employment plan. They have all of these ideas on where you should save your money. Open a self-directed 401k, open a Roth IRA, right? And it just seems like French to a lot of individuals. So I want to clear up a lot of that for you all. And I want you to consider, this is where we're unlearning to relearn. Just imagine if you never heard those things yet. Like you're not confused about if you should invest in stocks, bonds, crypto, any of that. Just unlearn that for a quick second. And relearn the fact that when we're managing our assets, we need to know what role each type of fund plays, and then consider optimizing our mix based on our asset allocation. In layman terms, that means when we're looking at where our money is being saved, we need to know how the money is being protected or how it's even making money. Because we, like Brother Ben said, we don't want to do any schemes now. We want to make sure that we know how is our money growing, right? And so that would literally cut out thousands of products who are confused, because all of those thousands of products only fall into one of three categories, okay? And the three categories that they fall into, the first one is going to be what's called a fixed account. Fixed, right? And what fixed means is, fixed is literally like what the banks provide, right? So the banks normally provide us with, I'm trying to scroll this down. Let's see, hold on one second. So what the banks normally do is they're normally providing us with a fixed rate of return, right? So if you're earning, let's say 1%, 2%, 3%, that is a fixed rate of return. It's very simple. You know that you're not going to earn any more than that. You may not earn any less than that. So we went over that with 2%. If we're only earning 2% fixed interest, it's going to take 30 to 90 years for us to see our money grow. And as a wealth creator, playing the doubles game, because wealth creation is about playing the doubles game. We're playing a doubles game. We can't really afford to only earn 2% on our money when inflation is between 4 and 8%, because our purchasing power is decreasing. So that's not the best option. The second option is what they call a variable investment, right? And so a variable investment literally means that the investment varies, where the root word is vary, meaning that I have complete potential on the upside, but I have no protection on the downside. An example of a variable account would be stocks, right? 2008, 2009. How did the entire economy collapse? Well, thousands and millions of people have their 401ks, which 401ks are certainly variable investments. Stocks are based on, 401ks are normally based on stocks and equities, which are also variable investments. So if I have complete potential on the upside, but I have no protection on the downside, what happens when the floor falls out of the market? We have Walmart greeters that are 70 and 80 years old. And some people laugh about that. And it's really not funny, because they really just had the right concept, but in the wrong place, excuse me. So that means they were being savers. They were doing the right thing, but in the wrong place. And as we've seen, the stairs that went up and up and up and up and up, and they ended back at the bottom line. So they were saving. These individuals worked 40% of their life, like we're trained to do, through K through 12 the public K through 12 system. So they worked 40% of their life for 40 years or so of their life, for 40 hours a week, to retire on 40% of their income, and lost their entire income, all of their retirement, because they had variable investments. So again, a variable investment just means we have complete potential on the upside, no protection on the downside. And just if we're taking notes, 401ks, IRAs, which just stands for individual retirement account, Roth IRAs, which just means it's a tax-free individual retirement account, stocks, physical real estate. All of these things are variable investments, meaning we have complete potential on the upside, but if things go down, we go down with it. The last category is what's called an index. Okay, and an index is a very, very powerful type of investment. And the reason for that is because an index is an investment that will mirror that same price action of the market. Because we like the market because it grows, right? That's how the United States is how it flows, is through the market. So we appreciate, capitalizing on those gains. But what this does is it protects us from loss as well. So an example would be if this orange squiggly line here is the actual market, right? So the market's here, then it goes down, so you've lost some money. Then it comes up, so you make some money. And by the way, anytime you lose money, let's say we started here at 10,000, if you went down to negative whatever the number may be and you didn't have any more money, it's going to take you $20,000 now just to get back to the 10,000 that you had initially. Because now you have to recoup the original 10,000 that you lost and then make another 10,000 to get back to 10,000. And that's why it's a doubles game, right? That's a double that's working against you. But we want a double that's going to work for us. So we don't really want those type of problems. We don't really, especially not in this economic condition. We don't want to be saving in a 401k or any type of investment account with the possibility that when the market resets itself, which it's going to be doing, we just looked at the chart. We're not just making this up because people are saying it. We're looking at it and doing the same fundamental analysis that the financially independent and wealthy do to position themselves. Side note, Brother Ben, I know that you tap in to news quite often, not like political news, but like, you're very well informed. Did you hear about Jeff Bezos and Warren Buffett and all of those individuals that sold off like trillions of dollars of their stock?
I did not. Can you educate us on that?
Oh, yes, definitely. So just the other day, let's see, really quickly. Let's go here. So just the other day, Jeff Bezos So here we go. So this is just one day ago. So, right. So remember we were talking about, I just went over the chart with you all and we showed how it was at the top and that was quantitative easing, but now they're doing quantitative tightening, which means they're pulling money out of the market. Bezos sold more than $8.5 billion worth of his stock in the recent weeks. Right. Also Warren Buffett. And what does this do? Well, it decreases the value of things. Right. This is just 23 hours ago. Right. Warren Buffett just sold 10 million shares.
Let me see here.
Of Apple. Right. So these individuals are selling off their stocks. They're selling off their assets. And how that affects us, you may ask, well, what does that have to do with us? Well, it has a lot to do with us because it actually changes, it decreases action, price action. So people who have 401ks, IRAs, and these type of market-based investments, when you're in a variable investment, you are definitely affected by this, right? It affects us in like a domino effect. So it doesn't happen right away, but it happens over time. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because that's why we want to always focus on index investments, right? Where it's going to mirror the price action. So instead of us going through the dips, the valleys and the peaks and, the emotional stress that people go through losing their money, it's simply just going to mirror the price action, right? And have a protective floor. So all that means in layman terms is I have complete potential on the upside, meaning we can participate when the market is going in the direction that has a positive effect on us. But when the market goes into the direction of a negative effect, we have complete potential on the downside. So we have complete protection on the upside, but we have complete protection on the downside.
Wow.
And
I got a quick question. Sorry to cut. Is that book called Family Wealth? Is it called Family Wealth, Keeping It in the Family?
Let me triple check. I believe so.
How family members and their advisors preserve human, intellectual, and financial assets for generations.
Let's see. Yes. James E. Hughes Jr.
Okay. Everybody, I just put that one inside of the chat as well. So y'all got a good savings day today. Y'all got three books. It's in there now. My bad. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. So essentially, if we're looking at the same categories that we were before, spender, saver, wealth creator, normally the spenders and consumers, the debtors, are here in the fixed, right? They normally have regular bank products, mutual fund products. They just have fixed returns. Savers and investors, we've seen this is why they end up back at the bottom line, because you invest money you know don't expect to see back, which is interesting, kind of foolish, but okay. But that's what they're instructing people to do. Look forward to losing the money. Just put up money that you don't want to see back, right? As a saver and investor, they end up back at the bottom line normally. And this is where the wealth creator comes in, right? As a wealth creator, this is where we want to be. We want to ensure that while the market is shaky and things are going on, we want to ensure that we are covered, that we are protected. So the money that we're now saving, that's now outpacing inflation, if it's in a variable account, it matters not if we're earning 10% a year, but the market has a negative year and now we've lost the money that we've made. What would make the more sense is to maximize as a wealth creator how much money our money is making, and then understanding that we have a protective floor for the money that we're making, so that no matter what happens in the market, no matter if the market goes up or down, our money is still around. And lastly, for our last principle of the day, the last thing to really consider so that we can properly prepare for this economic shift, economic emergency, is the tax category that we're in. Notice we have the same quote that we have here is the same quote that we had on the first one when it came to the rate of return. Because again, it's not about how much money we make, but it's about how much money we keep. So I want to address this from two perspectives. I want to address this from a personal perspective. So for individuals who may just have a 9-to-5 or regular job, right? And when I say regular job, that just means we're not an entrepreneur, we're 1099 or W-2. Okay. Most individuals are paying about 30 to 50% over their lifetime in taxes, which is interesting, right? So that means that 100% of what you made, you really only kept 50% of it, because the other 50% went to, the government for taxes. And that's also where purchasing power comes in, to ensure that where we're saving our money and how we have our things structured are beneficial for now and later. So my business owners on this call, even if you're not a W-2 and W-9, but you have a 1099, it's time to get our house in order, to make sure that we are having our business structure reviewed, which is also something that our firm provides as well. So if you're a 1099 or you have a small business or you just started your business, right? Or you already have a business that's already in force, already in effect, is already profitable, we want to make sure that it's properly structured on the back end so that we're not losing a bunch of money. I don't know if you all heard, but Terrence Howard owed $900,000 in back taxes. Now, while everyone's talking about what he said and how he said it, the truth is it still comes from a lack of information and education, because Amazon doesn't pay taxes. And it's not because they're doing anything illegal. It's because they understand that it's not about how much money they make. It's about how much money they keep by having the proper structure, especially when it comes to their taxes. So I just wanted to add that part in there, because as entrepreneurs, we are making so much money, or you're on your way to making so much money, or in your spirit that it's about time, that Allah is about to bless you with a lot of money, income based on the seeds that you have sowed, based on the work that you have done, right? How our taxes are structured is very, 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 very key. I can't stress that enough. So that's very important. So the first one is a taxable income, being the W-2, W-9, 1099, capital gains, etc. Right? This is normally where our spenders are normally, because they don't really see all the time the maximized potential in their purchasing power. The second tax category is going to be tax deferred. Tax deferred just means that you can pay taxes later. So our 401ks, our 403bs, our pensions, our individual retirement accounts, or our IRAs, those are tax deferred. So what that means is you can put all of your money in there before it's taxed, and your money can grow, hopefully. And when it's time for you to use the money, so when you need the money the most, this is where the purchasing power conversation comes in. Let's say a 401k holder. they've saved $200,000. And now it's time for them to access the $200,000. Maybe they're entering retirement, or they're leaving their job, or they have a business investment that they want to tap into. Do they have access to that whole $200,000 that they see? Absolutely not. They have access to the $200,000 minus the taxes on that $200,000. So while they didn't pay taxes on the money that was going in, which was a lesser amount, they ended up paying taxes on a larger amount later, which can essentially be, a cancer for our wealth, because it can take us back down to the bottom line rather quickly. So lastly is the tax exempt category, right? And this is a category that I didn't even know existed until about 5 years ago. This whole time I've been trying to figure out, well, I guess tax deferred is the only way to go. So let me figure out how to save as much as I can in a tax deferred environment, and then I'll figure out what I can figure out later. And someone asked me, one of my wealth advisors at the time said, Alexis, do you know what taxes will be when you need the money the most? And I said, oh, I don't know. Actually, no, I don't. And that was the problem, is that this is the lowest taxes have been in US history. So we don't really know what taxes will be when we need the money the most. So that's why wealth creators focus on tax exempt or tax advantage categories, okay? Fun fact. The category cash value life insurance is here. The category Roth IRA is here, right? The Roth IRA, the reason I'm going to skip over it in this example is just because it's still an IRA, so it's still a variable investment. If we were in a different market condition, then I would say, oh yes, an IRA could be a great diversification for you, meaning you can add that to your portfolio or what you're building. But in these market conditions, we, again, don't want to be in any investment that doesn't have a floor. So when we're looking at cash value life insurance came to America, was introduced to America in the 1800s. So the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Carnegie family, the wealthiest families known in America, they've all been using cash value life insurance since the 1800s. To not only build wealth, but to obtain it, maintain it, create their own family banks, etc. Right? But taxes weren't invented or weren't introduced until 1913. The government eventually just said, hey, listen, we're introducing a new banking system. We're introducing the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve was created in 1913. We're introducing the Federal Reserve, and we're broke, essentially. It was after the Civil War. So we were dead broke. And they went to these 12 families and just said, hey, we're broke. Please help us and bail us out. The families basically said, well, how are you going to pay us back if you don't have any money? And the federal government literally told them, well, we'll pay you back with the blood, sweat, and tears of our people. So we will create the internal revenue system, and it will tax every single dollar that is made by the employees in the economy that you're assisting to stimulate. So that's when they introduced taxes. And at that same time, they also introduced a tax loophole. It's called 7702A, right? Internal Revenue Code 7702A, which allows for cash value life insurance to be one of the only vehicles where we can leverage the money that we're saving and that's growing 100% tax-free. Why that's important is because, again, we want to maximize our purchasing power, especially in times such as this. So that sums up the seminar in a sentence, right? The main things are making sure, how do I become economically empowered during an economic emergency? Number one is I shift my mind from that of an average mind to a wealthy one. I'm identifying what my money blueprint is. I'm identifying what I truly believe about money, and then I'm challenging those beliefs. Right? And if we're challenging those beliefs, that can be even writing them down. What do you believe about money? And what do you believe about what you deserve when it comes to money? Right? We covered and went over the importance of understanding the annual rate of return on our money, right? So making sure we're clear on how much money our money is earning, because we want our money to be out working as hard for it as we are, right? The second component that we went over was where our money is being saved or invested. If we're saving it, great. If we're investing it, great. But what is the percentage that I'm earning on that investment, and how is that money earning money? Meaning, is it growing at a fixed rate where I'm not going to earn more than 1 or 2%, 3 or 4%? Is it in a variable rate investment environment where I have complete potential on the upside, but no protection on the downside? Or is it growing in an index environment where I have complete potential on the upside and I also have complete protection on the downside? And lastly, we covered the importance of taxes, because they say two things are for certain: death and taxes, right? We want to ensure that we are getting the most advantageous benefits out of this tax code, because it can make or break our wealth. You can make $1 million and pay 80% of it to the government if we don't have these things properly structured and are, again, cleaning house and getting prepared for what is to occur. So it's really important that we look at what we already have in place. And that's where, again, I'll offer one more time that we have the full comprehensive financial planning that we're providing 100% free for Brother Ben's members, to make sure that if you already have a financial or investing plan in place, amazing. But have an unbiased eye look at it and make sure that your portfolio or what you have saved or invest is being maximized. So that way you can truly be economically empowered during an economic emergency. And you can use this wealth transfer to your advantage and not to your demise. So that essentially sums up my seminar for the day, my TED Talk for the day.
Your Ben Talk.
My Ben Talk. Yes, my Ben Talk. That's right.
Wow, this was amazing, amazing. Thank you once again. Listen, I don't know about y'all, man, but this stuff is free for y'all. I mean, man, what y'all just learning, what you getting today, man, is takes years of study. So y'all getting years of study. And what, an hour and a half? I got a quick question for you, Sister Lex. I got a brother who said, man, this is a lot, man. This is it's overwhelming. How do you process all of this? How do you intake all this when you got so much that you have to learn? Now, I gave him an answer, but I told him I would ask you, so he can give maybe another perspective of, as you learn all of this, we didn't learn this in school. Our parents didn't teach this growing up. So with so much we got to learn about investments, about how money works, about taxes and all this, how do you learn this and without being so overwhelmed and still make that gradual process without feeling like I'm behind and the world is coming down? I know the dollar is falling, but man, I don't know if I'm going to be there in time. How do you manage all of that?
That's a good question. Honestly, this might sound cliche, but I would truly say tapped in, tuned in, and turned on to, number one, the information that's being shared about how money works. So a great place to start is, Investopedia. A great place to start is Bloomberg, right? Just kind of, it's going to be foreign at first, right? It's going to sound like words that you've probably never heard before. But I want to encourage us to understand that language is the foundation of all subject matter. It doesn't matter how complicated it is or how complicated it may seem. The minds that we have are so dynamic. And on top of that, we're only using 10% of our brain. We're only using 10%. So even if you can only do 15 or 30 minutes a day, just tapping in, tuning in, and turning on. One of the books that I really want to recommend as well, after you're done reading Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, is The Banker's Code. The Banker's Code really breaks down this system in the most simplified way. And that's why I teach the way that I do, because I want to break down these high-level concepts and make them as simple as possible. So the answer would be, set aside 30 minutes to an hour a day if you can. If you have to commute to work, change the music and listen to an audiobook. One of the books is called, like I said, The Banker's Code. The book is going to change. All the mentees that I have who've read that book, they call me back and I know that they've read the book by the tone they have when I answer the phone, because they immediately are like, oh my gosh, that changed my life. So that's my answer, is really keeping it simple. Don't try not to overcomplicate it, and really tap into it. And also, if you schedule a call as well, we do provide materials that are really easy to understand when it comes to how money works. So that way you can actually apply those concepts through time.
Yes, ma'am. Stick around, by the way, y'all.
Hopefully that answers the question.
I'm about to get y'all.
Brother Ben, we can't hear you.
Oh, my bad. I was telling them to stick around because I am going to give them the link where they can schedule a call for you. Also, I just put the banker's code inside of our Telegram. It's under links and files. For those of you all who get like an error, you have to download the Telegram app first, then click on the link, and then it'll take you right there. Another thing I want us to just really put in our mind. I want us to really analyze our life and analyze our study. Our study group coordinator, Brother Malik, said, man, listen, when you're going through something, that's what you need to study. Don't just study just to study. Don't just put the minister on just to say I got the minister on. Wherever your weakness is in life, that's what you need to be studying. You know, some of us, we may be studying the history of Jesus. Good. Fill your brain up. Get that knowledge. But man, how that's going to affect you being a Jesus and a savior for yourself first, your family, and your people in modern time. So it don't mean don't study these things. It don't mean don't get spiritual. It don't mean don't go into the... But man, listen, if I'm struggling here, this the book I need to be looking at right here. And the question I want to ask us is, and I want you to really just be real with ourselves. If we look at the last 45 days of our life, if we do what this sister just said, just 30 minutes a day, I'm analyzing taxes. I'm analyzing money. I'm how money works. Just 30 minutes a day. How much more smarter would you be today if you just did that for 30 minutes a day? Some of us, we struggle with social media. I don't know how to edit videos. I don't know how to post video. I've been saying this for years. Bro, if you take 1 week, and it ain't going to take you 1 week. If you take 1 week and study, how do I put the words on the video? Just for 1 week. This week, you will never have to, the next week, you will never have to deal with that again. How do I download music and put the music on my, man, I don't know how y'all do that. Bro, if you took 1 week, sister, if you took 1 week, and it ain't gonna even take you 1 week, it really take you a day, but I'm just telling you 1 week to over deliver. If you take 1 week and learn how to put music into your videos, bro, next week you would not have that problem. Some of us, we're just not segmenting what we need to study and giving all of our attention to one thing. We think I can do this, I can study this, and all at one time. The mind don't even work like that. We really do one thing at a time. So then because we got so many tabs open, we suffer from over-analysis paralysis. If your phone starts to tweak, right? Most people say, damn, look at how many tabs you got open. Boy, you got every app. Boy, close some of them apps. This computer is a replica of our mind. Close some of the tabs you got open. You studying this because you studying and you watching this podcast. You watching this new man. Listen, I've been on this for the past month. Boom, boom, and it gets easier. And I'm just saying, if we just think about it, how long we've been alive. Imagine there's something some of us we haven't learned how to do, and we had this same problem 2 years ago. I just don't know how to do this. Ask ourselves, how many hours have I put in of my free time just studying this and this alone? Well, we can get it. So I'm challenging us. Whatever it is that we're saying that, man, I don't understand about taxes, whatever I don't understand about money, whatever, that book, The Banker's Code, just read it. Just read. Don't let nothing else distract you. Don't go back and read nothing from what's the name that ain't got nothing to do with our weakness. Don't try to study this to go debate nobody. Don't try to study it because we say, listen, The Banker's Code. If that's what we struggle with, The Banker's Code. And then we come back and then we should be able to give her a report. Next Wednesday or the 2 Wednesdays from now, we should be able to say, sister, man, I learned from The Banker's Code.
Absolutely. And it's that easy of a read, Brother Ben. I also want to, I'm going to align and reread the book myself as well. so that we can all be in alignment with the assignment, especially as we're preparing for Ramadan, really getting clear with our consciousness and our intentions on what things we want to bring light to change and work on. Right? I know that that's a part of the whole thing with Ramadan is really shifting, right? And sacrificing and putting yourself in alignment with the assignment for our next level. So I want to also do that as well, Brother Ben. Maybe our next session, we can, like you said, go over some key takeaways, feedback, observations, or even questions that about the book. So that way they can really have a clear understanding on how money works, because it's a lot more simple than we've been taught. It's so simple. I know that sounds crazy, but it's really about how much money your money is making, if your money is being protected from loss, and what tax category it falls in. All the other things are like a smoky mirror screen. So if I can help everyone in your community get to that next level with simplicity, it would truly be an honor and privilege.
Wow, man! Are y'all hearing this, man? Listen, y'all don't take advantage of this, man. I don't know what else to tell you, man. Listen, so that's what we're gonna do. That's the assignment. That is the assignment from today. We got 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks. Read it. Write your questions down, whatever you don't understand. And in 2 weeks, she's gonna be on, and we just gonna discuss the banker's code, what you learn, what's confusing, what you need help with. Now we ain't got no excuse. We not by ourselves no more. That's what the Power Call community is about, to do it together, to help each other. So listen, in 2 weeks, we should have it. Do anybody got any questions for her before we get out of here? Also, the Calendly link to schedule a one-on-one, I advise you do that, Brother Winfrey. Click that Calendly link. It's free for this community. So y'all can get on there, ask her one-on-one, whatever you need. Please take advantage of that. So the Calendly link that's in there, go ahead and click that. Now, for those who on Facebook and YouTube, see, this is what Brother Nuri say. Membership have its privileges. So y'all got to come on into the Power Call app and get in this Zoom to get the links that they be getting. But for now, her name is Sister Alexis Holified. But if you got a question, press the number 1 inside the chat. I see you, Sister Shalon. So we're going to start with you. Go ahead with your question. And the book that she recommended, all of the books are inside the Telegram, y'all. All of them. So download Telegram first, and that link that Sister Randisha is putting inside of the Zoom, just click that Telegram. I've already put the books for y'all inside of the links and files chat for y'all. So y'all already got it. But go ahead, Sister Sister Shalon.
Yes. Okay, assalamu alaikum, Sister Alexis. Good to see you again. Brother Benek, thank you for this again. Okay, Sister Alexis, we've spoken a couple of times, and I'm thankful to you for all the valuable information that you shared with me. I have a question regarding this compound interest. I know the value of that. And I was in a program once, or I was in a group many years ago, and you've just reminded me with regard to that I did not invest in that at the time in the group that I was in. Are you set up to where I can begin that compound interest? I can start that, whereas I lost out on it before, but I know the value in it, so I want to get going with that. Do you have a program or an avenue for me to get right to that immediately?
So your question is there a strategy that you can use to begin investing in vehicles that are creating compounding interest?
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. And there's several different ones. So essentially, when it comes to the programming and things of that nature, depending on if you want actual advice and things like that on what to invest in, we can definitely connect via another call, because there's different indexes. There's different vehicles that you can use to compound your interest, depending on how much you're saving, what your risk tolerance is, and really just what your goals are. So the answer is, depending on the amount that you're desiring to save to compound, I can definitely give you some direction on some less risky, not like, because it's an index, so it's not really risky, but where it's not as expensive and it's not as volatile as some of the other indexes.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you, dear.
Yes,
Now before we get out of here, y'all telling me that everybody, all 64 of y'all understood every single thing that Sister Alexis said. This is the time to ask your question. We got people coming on this call saying, hey, I'm doing this for free. I'm giving y'all this game. I'm here to answer questions. I'm here to give you understanding. And only one person had a question. I'm just showing us. I'm just giving you a mirror. So when y'all say, oh, I don't understand, and man, I don't know how to do this, and Brother Ben, what's her name? She's right here in front of us, on camera, on Zoom, and only one person has raised their hand to say, I need a little clarity on this. I got a question on this. All right, y'all. So if y'all got it, y'all understood everything she said. Cool. All right, let's go back to Sister Shalon.
Brother Ben, are you providing us a replay of this so that I can go back and really study
of
this?
Course.
Yes.
Yep. All right. Well, we're not gonna hold you if they don't have any more questions for you. Thank you again for joining us. Do you have any closing words?
Honestly, the only closing words that I would have is really one of the things that you said that stood out to me the most is really study our life, right? Really get clear as you're preparing for Ramadan on what areas of your life, when it comes to spiritually, mentally, physically, and financially, that you truly want to shift. So that way you can start challenging the belief so that we can unlearn to relearn. Because next year on Ramadan, we want everybody to be 6 and 7 figure earners. And not just because it's about the money, but because we're truly creating impact and we're having transformation from the education that we're having. So have implementation with the education so that we can have transformation is really the key in closing words. But really bring awareness, like Brother Ben said, to the parts of our life that we really want to see change. Not just clichely saying it like, oh yeah, this is what I'm working on, but really being intentional. If financial issues or financial blueprints are the issue, let's really bring light to that. Write it down. Say it out loud so that way we can challenge these beliefs that we have. If it's a spiritual hindrance that we have, write down those challenges so that way we can challenge those beliefs as we move forward and really tap in for the true shifts that can happen with Ramadan and us aligning with the assignment.
Yes, ma'am. All right, family. Well, I thank everybody for joining. I thank everybody for being here. And I'll say, man, as we prepare for Ramadan, think about what we have to do to prepare for Ramadan. Man, I got to get prepared to get up early in the morning and read. We're going to read every part together. That spiritual preparation is what we have to do even when we're learning new things. Think about we have to purposely, intentionally set aside time to learn that. We just take that same principle to learn other things. And when we think about our life, we didn't learn, and I want us to really be patient with ourselves too. Our level of that, some of us may know the teachings, that didn't happen in 1 week. That happened over time. Some of us been in the nation over 5 years, over 10 years, over 20 years. You've been studying it for 30 years. You still learning something new in the teaching every month. Every Savior's Day, the minister say something make you say, ooh, dang, I didn't think about it like that. So be patient with ourselves as we're learning finances, especially when we know, hey, man, I wasn't taught this. You're going to make some mistakes. You're going to have high tax bills. You're going, damn, I wish I would have did it this way. That's really a part of our lesson. Shoot, that's a part of our curriculum. I done got hit. Oh, yeah, that's going to make me really study this year, boy, because that bill was high. And it forces you to go do it. So be patient with yourselves as you're learning this, because I'm sure Sister Alexis is still growing. I'm for sure still growing and still learning. So be patient with yourselves as you embark on this journey. Remember, the race is not to the swift nor the strong, but to those who can endure to the end. The assignment, by the way, somebody asked what's the assignment. Read the first 2 to 3 chapters of the Banker's Code or listen to the audio. And in 2 weeks, we're going to come back and then we're going to discuss it. So we want to hear your feedback. If you have any questions, she'll be here to help us answer some of those questions. But it is to read chapters 2 or 3 chapters. Let's just do 3 chapters. Let's not even confuse it. We're going to read the first 3 chapters of the Banker's Code. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to come back and discuss it. Again, the Telegram app is inside of
revealed to you in the pages of this book.
Oh, She's putting it up. The Telegram, the new Telegram app is inside of the old Telegram app. I'll send it out to y'all via the app that we have as well. But that Telegram is just going to be a lot easier for us to manage. When new people come on, I see that the app has been kind of difficult for some people. So for the general people that just I just want to tap in and get the links. I ain't trying to go into the app and all that. We're creating the Telegram for that. And then she just put inside of the YouTube, which I'll put inside. I'll put this inside of our Telegram for the links and files. This is the audio for you guys to check out the Bankers Code audio. Where do I sign up for the power call subscription? I'm going to give you the Telegram. Just join the Telegram for now. And if you guys would like to donate, you can go to the support the power call. Just if you guys want to donate and help out in any type of way, because this stuff is free for y'all, but it ain't free for me. Okay, so go to copy, boom. So that's the link. Make sure you download the Telegram app first, Sister Sherelle. Download the Telegram app first, then click on that link. And when y'all click on that link, then it'll populate for you guys. So thank y'all for listening. See you guys, inshallah, tomorrow morning. Assalamu alaikum.
Is Brother Ben here? Brother Ben. Now, Ben got a heck of a program. A lot of people listening to Brother Ben. And Ben tells them about the minister.